Hi everyone, we're here with another Zoom meeting with Edge of Play, and I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Oakes from Paul Oakes Goalkeeping School. You might recognise him from doing a number of the videos on our Edge of Play site under the goalkeeping section. Cracking guy, cracking coach, and today we're going to be talking about angles of support from the goalkeepers. We're going to run you through a few different examples because I think with the way the game's going at the moment, I'm sure you'll all agree that goalkeepers supporting positions, the ability with the feet, I'll let you do your quote about the number of touches, POGS, but the ability with the feet, the number of times goalkeepers are involved in the possession, and especially in the first third. Maybe you've got goalkeepers like Rene Higuita, you might look into the middle third as well, but it's becoming more and more popular for goalkeepers to be involved in the build-up play and possession of the football. So we're going to look at how you can position yourself today, or how our goalkeepers can position themselves when we're in possession, sometimes when we're out of possession, and especially with a focus on the initial pass, which we're going to look at first. So Pogs, it's great to see you again. You keeping well?
Yeah, doing really well, staying fit, eating right. So yeah, doing really well. Positives from this lockdown. Getting a lot of
25k run the other day.
I did, yeah. I was like Forrest Gump. So I had it in my head I was just going to run and just see how far I could go. And then when you're so many miles away from home, there's only one option to run back. So it's the next day I was like the Tin Man. So I won't be doing it again very quickly, but yeah, it was an experience.
There's
Down the Rockhill Canal.
Always option 2 of an Uber if you go too far.
There is that,
yeah. So yeah, as I said, we're going to talk about build-up play. I know you've got a fantastic stat about the number of times the goalkeepers touch the ball in a Premier League game, which has been shown in our videos. But if you just want to explain why you feel that it's important that goalkeepers work on a bit of the possession side of the game, and especially the playing out from the back.
Yeah, goalkeeping's evolved so much now. So you've got to be on the ball with your feet. You've got to almost be able to play outfield, sweeper, keeper. So if you look, I do like to look at the Premier League years at the beginning when they're on Sky, or if you've been watching the reruns of the cup finals and the keeper just bounces it 3 times and then he just launches it, and he's not really, just basically keeping it on the island. And now the game's changed so much. So yeah, the stat is, it might have changed, but from as far as I know, it was out your 10 touches, 7 are going to be with your feet. So it'd be daft not to work on that. Your short passing, your long passing, your different kinds of distribution, your side foot pass, your drill pass, drilling in, clipping it, wedging it. It's got to be on point. Your touch as well. So yeah, we do a lot with our feet.
I remember hearing that for the first time at one of your sessions and being absolutely amazed by that stat. And you're hearing a lot of coaching circles now talk, especially in terms of possession practices. So many are talking about the goalkeeper as being instrumental in starting play from the back and being instrumental in retaining possession, especially on the decision making. A lot of coaches now saying that, you know, there is always a spare player, and that spare player is usually your goalkeeper. And the goalkeeper will be able to recycle, you'll be able to make the right decisions from a area where you can see everything, basically. So really intrigued to be talking about this. We're going to have a look at just a little bit that we put together on Tactics Manager. And we're going to talk, if it's okay with you, about a couple of different scenarios from playing out from the back. We're going to start with the ball at the goalkeeper's feet here. The way I've set it up is so that this can be for 7-a-side, 9-a-side, 11-a-side formations. In 11-a-side, we've got the 2 centre-backs nice and wide here, and the full-back with the central midfielder here. In 7-a-side, that could be that you play in a 2-3-1. In 9-a-side, again, you could have the full-backs here, and this could be one of the midfielders. So it's applicable to all levels of football here. The angles of support video, if anyone's not seen it on Edge of Play, is Pogs talking to his players about why it's so important to create a good angle of support for your player, and what the kind of things you need to focus on whilst you're providing that angle of support. And the way I'd like this to work is if we look at playing to each of the different players. So the first one here, we play out to the centre back, who will have some pressure on him by either one forward or maybe 2 forwards. what then is the initial thoughts that a goalkeeper should be going through?
So when he's ready to play to his centre back now, again, he's looking at his options. So before he's even received that ball to his feet, he's looking at his options. He's had a scan. He's seen what's on here. So he's going to play out to his centre back, and he's going to give them the information as well. Turn out, off you go. Simple as. So
how can we provide a good angle of support here for this centre back? So the ball's gone to him. Obviously, the centre back's going to be looking at the options he now has available. One of those is going to be the goalkeeper. Back to the goalkeeper. So if we just look at what kind of movements the goalkeeper can make here, what would be a good movement for you for the goalkeeper to make now? Straight
away from my goalkeeper, I'd want him to come off target. Just in case there was an error there. So I'd be asking him, to come across. So if it hit a divot or the pass, he couldn't control it, something's happened. The worst case scenario was a corner ball. If it hits a divot, he makes a mistake, miscontrols it, it's in the back of the net. So I'd be asking him to come off target. I'd also be saying to me, defender, I want my goalkeeper to give as much information as he can. So show and tell. So show the defender where he wants the ball, tell him where he wants the ball. So he can put his hand out to say right foot to receive, and giving him as much information as possible. The last thing he wants, especially if it's a player he's not played with, the defender might not even know what foot he is and may just put it on his wrong foot. So again, he's got to show and tell where he wants it. Makes life a lot easier for him.
Is this kind of area we've highlighted here in yellow, is that a decent area for the goalkeeper to come in?
Just
across. Touching on your first point there, off target is a great one. I mean, I've had a goal conceded from my open age team this season where the pass back was on target. The goalkeeper's been put under huge pressure. We made a mistake and conceded from it. Like your Enkelman, I'm a Villa fan, so I always remember the Enkelman versus the Blues. But yeah, so that being off target, it's quite a risky one to do, isn't it? Because you're not covering your goal area. But as you say, you reduce the risk of the worst case scenario of the ball going straight into the net, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I think it happened for England. England v Croatia. Was it Gary Neville and might have been Paul Robinson?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a ridiculous bounce, and the keeper's not at fault there. For me, the defender's at fault for putting that on target. It might not happen that often, but let's reduce the chances. Let's get it off target.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So when the player looks up, they're hoping for people to give them information, aren't they? Of where they are, where they want the pass. And you touched on that second. The communication from the goalkeeper is key. So we make that initial pass out to the centre-back here. Centre-back's now probably looking forward. He wants to be looking forward to start with. If he's not got options forward, how can the goalkeeper help with his communication in telling that player if he's on and where he is?
So the keeper again can take it back off the fullback, centre half, and then he can switch play. So using the V, he can receive the ball back and then play it to his other centre back. Let him know he's there. Not just pass the ball and then that's his job done. Still creating an angle, and then with that as well, the attacker, the opposition player, may come in and then decide to mark the goalkeeper, which again is creating space for the centre back. So even offering the option, you might not receive the ball, but you're creating space.
So we've added a couple of attacking players here. Just on that point, I think obviously if the attacking player goes and closes down the centre back on the ball, then the goalkeeper's a great option there. If the attacking player closes the goalkeeper, then theoretically you should have a spare player elsewhere. I think I've touched on this in possession videos I've done before. It's all about finding the spare player, isn't it? And so often the goalkeeper is that spare player that's going to solve the problem.
And again, if the keeper, if the attacker goes to mark the centre back there, the keeper then can clip it into his fullback. And just because that pass is long, it doesn't mean it's a bad pass. There seems to be this mindset: if it's long, it's not quite right. It's still a pass. It's you look at Edison, his range of passing, so it's fine to clip it over there. And again, if the attacker there in grey is trying to cut out that pass and you just ping it over his head, he's going to get frustrated. He's going to probably stop chasing the ball around. He's going to get disheartened. So that pass there.
That's what we want, isn't it? That's what we want. We want to kill the attacker's motivation.
We bounce straight to your fullback, off you go.
No, we want to. I mean, we want to really try and dishearten the striker, don't we, sometimes, in keeping
Definitely.
possession. If you've got a great range of passing, as you're saying, you can always find that spare player. We want to make the problem as hard to solve as possible for that striker so that he gives up. That's the perfect scenario. And then we've got loads of space to play. If the ball gets played, obviously, if the ball gets played from the centre-back back to the goalkeeper now, a couple of things on just receiving the ball. So I know you said initially we should have scanned. I think all the time when the goalkeeper's making these angles of support, scanning and awareness is important, isn't it? To understand what your second move is, because you're going to pass it back. You know, where's your first touch going to take you, and what your second move is.
Yeah.
It's a constant skill to be doing, isn't it? To look over your shoulder.
Yeah, and what I will add there as well is the back pass as well. Sometimes it may not be perfect, so try not to stretch for that pass. Adjust your feet. So we like to say step, don't stretch. So get your foot adjustments in, and the moment you're stretching for the ball, you're in a little bit of trouble. So if the pass isn't perfect, just adjust your feet.
I guess having this kind of slightly deeper position gives you that leeway as well, doesn't it? If you're deep, then if that pass isn't accurate, or it's bobbly, or it's aerial, or it just gives you half a second more in your decision making to decide what you're going to do. If the goalkeeper had obviously got dead eager and supported his forward up here, then if that pass is inaccurate, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's have a look at a different scenario. Pressure on the two centre backs here, because you've done this pass so well to the initial centre back so many times that they're now trying to cut that off. And now we're looking at using a central midfielder who's been clever in creating a little bit of space, but it's in the central area. So how does our movement differ now as a goalkeeper? The ball goes into this central midfielder here. How does that movement differ for this man or this woman in goal? What should the angle of support look like in this scenario?
And still, if we're going to play there, I'd still try and get my goalkeeper to receive that pass, off target.
Okay.
So I'd still like him to come either side. Again, it's not always possible.
So we're looking at maybe shorter areas of here, maybe?
Yep.
And then another one over here. So you're giving, I like that, because I don't like the straight pass back to the goal. Not only is it dangerous in that it can probably go into the goal, but also it's a tough one to get out of your feet. So you probably have to take an extra touch there, don't you? When you
what you will find this as well is your centre midfielder, whatever level, and I've seen this in the professional game many times. Your centre midfielder will come in, hold the midfielder, and will demand it, and then play it back to the keeper, and literally put him under pressure. Yeah. And it's like, what was the point in that? They'll come, they'll demand it, and it looks good. It looks like they want the ball, and they're putting the keeper back under pressure. So sometimes it's a decision making from the keeper to say, no, it's not on. Let's have a look at something else.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because I've seen so many do it and they're not even under pressure. They'll come in and they'll bounce it back. And this player here has took the gamble on that. And straight away, the keeper's now under massive pressure, even though he's created a good angle. So
this is where your communication comes in. They
absolutely
not had a look, so you can tell them, look, take a touch, turn out. Your terminology comes into play, and off he goes.
Absolutely. The dangers, I guess, doing this are your strikers putting you under immediate pressure, and then you're looking for your teammates around you to probably provide some options for you in playing out.
Yeah.
So we're saying a good angle for a central midfielder is one, again, off target. It doesn't need to be that wide. I think my zones are probably a bit too wide. We're saying don't be straight to the central midfielder.
Yeah, and again, it's not strictly it has to be off target. It's just, again, it's not every single time. So if you can, brilliant. If you can't, control. Let's still play.
Yeah, and I think your non-verbal communication that you pointed out in the very first one, I really like that. So showing the midfielder, he's got a lot of voices in his head probably at that time, from players shouting, from opposition shouting. Showing them, if you want it, to your right, to your left with your hands, and then making that movement is probably really key. So we've got the verbal communication, which you talked about. Is there a man on? If not, take your time. Don't just smash it back at me. If there is a man on, then there's likely not a man on me. And the non-verbal stuff of where do I want it? Show them where you want it, and then that's a decision less for you, isn't it? Is that fair?
That's great. Again, especially the younger ones, getting them clued up on the back pass rule. So if it's a throw-in, if it's a header, if they've chested it back, if it's a thigh, can we pick it up? Can't we? So they've got to understand that 100%.
Right. So we've had a look at the short options. We've got a nice, I think if you look at there, we've got a nice 4v2 diamond in that area, which a lot of teams are going to find is a common scenario that you have in playing out from the back from your goal kicks. Had a look at the short options. So if we go to one of the defenders that are near your box or a central player there, we're now going to have a look at if they are marked up tightly, which a lot of this will happen. Goalkeepers have to have a variety and a range of passing. They've probably got to be one of the biggest problem solvers on the pitch, especially nowadays because they're going to have so much of the ball. Now you're going to probably start playing out from short. Teams are going to wisen up to that, put a little bit of pressure on. You've then got to look at different options, which is why we've included a player slightly further up the pitch here, whether that be a fullback or a winger or just a midfielder that's created space over there. So again, it's about changing your play up. If we go short and they press us high, can we go long? If they then drop, can we go short again? All the time we're changing our game to manipulate the opposition. So when we can't go short and we have that one in the locker of bump over this player to a wide player that's in a little bit of space. How does our movement differ now? Because the ball is further away from goal. So there's probably less risk, but there's more risk on the pass. So what does the goalkeeper's movement look like now?
As he receives the ball?
After he's played that ball. So that long ball gets played to, it might be the fullback here.
Yeah, sorry.
It might be a striker up here that he's playing to. A longer ball, medium to long range passing, basically. How does your goalkeeper movement?
Yeah, once he's played that ball, then he starts pushing up. So then we start looking at his start position. So he doesn't just stay on his 6-yard line and admire his pass. He's still pushing up. He gets his defenders out, and then up we go.
How soon would you do that? As a goalkeeper, would you wait? You've played your pass. There's a number of risks here, aren't there, in a medium to long range pass. So one is that your pass isn't accurate, or that the player receiving is going to have to take an awkward touch. Another is that the opposition are now putting on quite a bit of pressure onto that player. So when do you have to think of all these triggers in your mind very quickly.
That's it, yeah.
You don't just play it and run out, do you? I think you have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, and then again, it's understanding, it's little things, understanding the player you're playing with as well. If he's probably going to bring that ball down and play, there's part of that as well you're thinking about. It's again, if you think actually his second touch is an apology, it's these all these little things, and again, I've got it at the moment, especially with the younger keepers. They say, look, my left back, he wants it all the time, he wants to play, but my right back doesn't. He's got his head down, he don't want to receive the ball.
Yeah.
So then people are getting on his back saying, why do you always play out to the left? And then he doesn't want to throw his right back under the buzz and say, well, he doesn't want it, or he's not good enough.
Yeah.
So you get all these factors with a goalkeeper. The amount of stuff that's going on in your head is ridiculous.
So starting positions, you good angle of support here. Because obviously centre-back is going to go and provide a little bit of support there.
Yeah.
Starting position, or the position you want to end up in for a good pass to a player that you're confident is going to control it. Are we talking about coming to middle to edge?
Yeah, a little. Yeah. Not too high, because then you're going to expose yourself. But we start pushing up a little bit. Again, then this is another factor: is your conditions. So if it's a windy day, that pass is going to hang in the air a lot longer. So you might be looking at maybe, a driven pass, if you can find the gap, getting your head over the ball and driving it into, your fullback. Yeah. If you can do, because you don't want that ball in the air too long.
If we're thinking a more risky pass, or as you said, from that example, to a player that you're not 100% sure is going to take that touchdown and play.
Yeah.
We're looking now at this, maybe not even, maybe having a little bit more secure and just coming ever so slightly out. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And then are you moving horizontally? So you moving to the side that you're playing? So the goalkeeper's not only coming out, but he's coming out to the left-hand side in this example.
Ever so slightly, yeah. So obviously not running up the flank, but just ever so slightly coming over there.
Perfect. Love that. I think a lot of goalkeepers will as well. Okay, we just talk a little bit. This is one of my favourite visuals I've ever seen. I've talked before about being a visual learner. I think when you showed me this before, it stuck in my mind, and it's why I got in touch with you and said, I'd love to do something on this. We've just touched on it there with starting positions for the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
And this is, I'll let you talk this through, but this is a visual you showed me once about starting positions related to where the ball is on the pitch.
Yeah. So a lot of people use the red, amber, green. So if it's red, you stay back roughly 6-yard box behind. Amber, you're looking at your 60 or 18. Be ready. Something's possibly going to happen. And then green, just go. You can go as far as you want. I like to go off this one. So if it's quite simple, if the ball's, say where number 1 is, your position relates to that. Yep, there. You stay number 1 there.
Yeah.
And again, so on 2, 3, and you're just pushing up and following play across. Again, it's the start positions. Start positions lead to good decisions. If you're,
I was just about to ask you that. So what are the benefits of a good starting position for a goalkeeper?
So again, this is the thing. If a keeper stays back, and this is sometimes a keeper drops back, and he might face, say 10 one-on-ones a game where he's invited that, and he might save 8, 9 of them. Say he's a really good shot stopper, and then parents, whoever, coaches, players say, oh, he's a brilliant keeper. Now you may have a keeper who's got a really positive start position, who stops that danger before they even get a shot because he's so far up, he's pushed up, his start position's positive.
Great point.
He's limiting the shots, so he's not getting as many shots. So this sometimes where stats can be misleading at any level. So I think keepers, the start position's been brilliant. They've mopped everything up and they've not had a shot to save all game. Now for me, it's a brilliant goalkeeping display. But then the coach will come off and, not trying to do it on purpose, might say, you've not really had anything to do there, mate. And then you might have a keeper whose start position's quite poor, it's quite negative, he's a couple of yards off his line, and he gets the chance then to pull off a couple of saves. So it's, things like that. So if your start position's positive, you can cut the danger out. Again, what you'll find is the attacker then, he'll have a glance, so he's hanging off the shoulder of the last defender, he's having a look where the keeper is. So if the keeper's quite high and his start position's positive, the attacker then will start going a little bit earlier, which then will lead to the offside flag going up. Or he might, because the keeper's coming high up, what he might start doing then is dropping deeper and deeper to receive that ball and probably get a little bit frustrated, like when Wayne Rooney played for England in any major tournament, starts dropping a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Again, what a fantastic point. I've never even thought about it from the attacker's position. If I'm up against a goalkeeper that's got a good starting position, it's an extra decision for me. I'm having to look at where to go. I'm not only concentrating on where my centre back is. If I'm in one of these areas here, your 7s, your 8s, your 9s, I'm looking at where that goalkeeper is, because if he's going to sweep it up, I need to be making a different kind of movement.
Yeah, exactly. And attackers will look where the goalkeeper is. So if you remember Matt Letizier's goal, I think when they beat Man United 6-3, he knew Schmeichel. He doesn't look up. So when he chips Schmeichel, he does not look up once. He knows Schmeichel played quite high up. So he's chipped him. It's the same, I know it's a bit random, but Ray Houghton, when Ireland beat Italy 1-0 in the 94 World Cup.
Remember it well.
He knew Pagliuca set quite high up. So he thought, I'll just have a dig. So he's got his negatives. But over a season, you may get lobbed once, 2, 3 times a season. If your start position's poor, you're facing shots 1, 2, 3 times per half. So, work it out. You're going to concede a lot more if your start position's poor and negative.
Pogs, I'm 6'5". If I'm getting lobbed even from the 1, 2, and 3 position there, I'm disappointed in myself if I'm the backup goalkeeper for the day. No, I'm joking. So just to touch on this, why I think it's such a great visual is the basic principle is if the ball is in zone 7, then zone 7 is a good area for your starting to be positioned to be. If the ball's in zone 5 here, then zone 5 here is a good starting position for the goalkeeper to be in.
Yeah. So
Brilliant
even again, going back,
so
if he is in zone 5 there, and you had Beckham v Wimbledon, and he's going for that chip, there's you've seen the triggers there. He's going to shoot, so you may have time to backpedal. And again, if an attacker or a midfielder or anyone's going to try that chip at any level, they might try it once. If it doesn't work once, they're probably not going to try it again. They're definitely not going to try it for a third time.
Do you know what? It's the risk versus reward thing, isn't it? Because I think it was Neil Sullivan that day that was in goal for Wimbledon. And his starting position is exactly what you've got in here. And Beckham's probably in zone 6 there. And Sullivan's on the edge of his box. And he gets back to his goal line. So the time that the ball travels, he still gets back to his goal. He just loses the flight of it. And sometimes you just got to say it's an absolute moment of brilliance from the player
and again,
on the ball.
Not taking anything away from Beckham, but at the time, it's in injury time. The 2-0 up, he's got nothing to lose. You know, is he going to be doing that at 0-0 in the first few minutes? I doubt it.
Yeah. But again, it's that the reason I say risk and reward is that if Sullivan's in a good starting position here in your 6 or your 3, he's probably going to be cutting out 9 passes that are going through by a good starting position. And there's one that might be the risk that goes over his head. But I'd rather him be in that position and do a load of good work than just sit back on his goal line and allow the strikers to get chance after chance. Just the last question I had about this. So obviously the areas are they're big on the pitch, but we've also given some wiggle room for the starting position of the goalkeeper there. So it's a rough area. How does that change in and out of position? So let's have a look at zone 4 here. I presume the goalkeeper's starting position here is going to change depending on whether his team are in possession or her team are in possession of the ball, or whether the opposition are in possession of the ball. So if your team are in possession of the ball in area 4, you know, in this area, we might come to the foreground of that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So like I say, it doesn't have to be as, you know, so rigid to say you must stay in this area. You're leaving a lot as well to the keepers to say, look, think about yourself, make your own decisions. This is a guide. So if you need to come, you know, out of those zones and you think it's the right decision and it works, superb, because I want you to make decisions, and especially the younger keepers, it's in sessions and in matches. I don't mind them making any mistakes.
Oh, I love it.
What I want is, you see it a lot where, and again, just before lockdown, and I don't like to get negative, but I was coaching and there was a couple of games going on next to me. So I'm doing a little one-to-one in the corner, and then all you heard was get red, boot it, you know, launch it. And the keeper, he kept coming out because he was stood on his goal line, and then he was just getting there in time and then smashing it out of play, sometimes for a goal kick at the other end, and everyone's clapping like crazy seals, and you're thinking, I just wish he'd take a touch. And it was one of my keepers who literally a few days before we'd worked on playing out from the back, and it's not the poor keeper's fault because he's just being told what to do. So they've won the game, but in the long run, is that going to help him? Absolutely.
Are you developing the player?
You know, I'd rather watch that game and watch him concede a couple where he's maybe been caught in possession, or his pass hasn't gone exactly where he wanted to, but it'll work well for him in the long run. It
is one of the main ways of learning. Unfortunately, from my own example, I remember once doing this starting position work with one of our goalkeepers. Luckily, in this, it went to a penalty shootout the game, and he saved 4 out of 4. Fantastic, but to get to the penalty shootout, we were working from minute 1 on his starting position, and the very first attack the opposition had, he came screaming out for something. The guy just knocks it one side of him, runs around the other side, and he's got an open goal. And it's my responsibility there as a coach, which I did, which was to tell him it was okay, because I've asked him to do that. I've asked him to go and explore that.
Yeah.
And now in his head, he has that picture, that scenario of, right, when that ball got played through there, I was here, I went there, it didn't work. Fine. You build up this library, don't you, of all these different things. If he never does that, then he never knows. Then he never has that library of pictures in his head.
So we've got it at the moment with I think he's 14, and his coach wants him to play high up, and he has been lobbed a couple of times this season, and he's kind of like, you put me in no man's land there, and the coach the coach is great. So what he's done is, and you know, it was superb. He's got the lads in and said, look, I want him to play this high. I want us to do this. So if he does get lobbed, nobody has a go at him. You have a go at me.
Brilliant.
It's on me. And that just took the pressure off him. So he goes high, and he's got it in his head. Well, if I get lobbed and I make it look silly, it's on me coach. And that for me is a masterstroke. It's superb.
But I hope, like we've touched on before, I hope the coach is also pointing out the times when he intercepts through balls, or when he's in a good position to have the ball to feet, or whether he stops any attacks. That's, you know, as a coach, it's good to take it on the chin and say it's my decision that he's there, and you take the pressure off the player. But also, so that you can show the importance of it to the players, it's also good to say, you know, young Billy in net has cut out nine attacks by being in a good starting position today. That's the benefit of it, and that's when it really sinks in with the players that right, I see why this works.
True. But going back to what you said last as well, who's the keeper saving 4 penalties?
He was amazing. I won't name drop it. He doesn't play anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, it was in cup game. Absolutely phenomenal performance. Right, well, I think that's it, Pogs.
Right, superb, mate. No,
Again, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I hope that the coaches have really enjoyed what we're talking through. We will share, if it's all right with you, we'll share some of those graphics.
Yeah, get them on.
It'll allow people to just download them, get them on your phones, or share them to groups that they've got with the players. Any questions that any of the coaches have watching this, please send them in, and I'll fire them over to Paul, and we'll get some answers for you. But yeah, again, huge insight into the starting positions and the angles of support from Goalkeeper.
Yeah, and again, all the POGS keepers out there, subscribe to Edge of Play. All right.
Good man.
It's only a few quid a month. You spend more on Fortnite and FIFA updates and all that lot. So.
I'll get that bank transfer over to
you. Cheers, mate.
Mate, you take care, yeah.
Right, sorted, James. Cheers, pal.
Lovely.